Good evening and welcome to All Four Wins Football. It is Lower League Lingo, week number 13, and it is indeed unlucky because I've got a rotten, stinking cold. So we're going to do our very best to get through it as best as we can. But the good news is that despite the fact that I'm sitting here with the sniffles, what I also have is two rather wonderful people to help me through it. We've got the marvellous, the wonderful, the Midlands representative, and he's just there, Mr. John Foster. How are you today, sir?
Hello, Barry. Yeah, very well. Thank you, mate. Not too bad at all. How are you? Well, still not very well from what you just said, actually.
Absolutely terrible. Thanks for reminding me and making me say it again. And just over here, we've got the mighty Gareth, our Northern representative. How are you doing, sir?
I'm even better now. You've referred to me as the mighty Gareth.
Absolutely. I agree, mighty Gareth. Absolutely. So there we go. Super duper. Love that. Well, we're going to get started because that's what we're here for. You're not here just to see how we are. So here we go. We're going to go straight in to Division 1 North with what can only be described as a humdinger in front of 134 people as York City won by the odd goal in 7 against Stockport County. It's in the north, so you'd assume this one is going to belong to the mighty Gaza.
Yes, it is. It's one of my picks. One of my picks for a number of reasons. We kind of touched on York and Stockport both in terms of their FA Cup runs so far, or lack of. I think more to the point, York City getting beaten by Handsworth and Stockport getting beaten by Mancunian Unity recently. I think this was a huge game. York were towards the bottom end of the table going into this. Stockport not having the best of runs at the moment, obviously trying to kind of arrest that downturn in form, hoping to be able to do so, take some momentum. They would have been hoping to take momentum from the FA Cup. Unfortunately, that isn't what happened. So they were going to the bottom of the league or kind of relegation threatened York City and would hope to turn things around, or at least begin to turn things around, get 3 points on the board, look ahead to the next game and move forward. However, they found themselves 2 goals down at the break because of the Katie Assel double. So work to do then for sure. Started to do that work when Emily Bradshaw got one back, but then there was a mad couple of minutes where York found themselves back in front before Stockport pegged them back again. Levi Rathburn equalised a few minutes after that, so between sort of the 65th and 71st minute was chaotic, 3-3, but then a late winner for York City gets them a massively important 3 points in the relegation battle. Everything becomes very congested down that bottom end of the table now, which I will touch on sort of later on when Barry shows us the table. But yeah, it's the Division 1 North is looking like a spicy league at the moment. Very congested at the top, very congested at the bottom of the league. And yeah, it's definitely looking, anybody could go down at the moment and anybody could win that league as well. I think anybody that will say with any sort of confidence who is going to win and who will be down, it is a braver man than I, because I really am unsure. Be hugely important for York for these 3 points, and again they'll be looking to kind of push on from that, get some points from elsewhere, and see if they can kind of move out of the relegation zone. Stockport will absolutely be looking to win. Their assistant manager has kind of left recently and has gone to Liverpool Feds to coach there. So there's some changes in backroom staff that will be coming in there, and yeah, they'll just be hoping to get an important result, because I'm just, we're seeing poor results kind of regularly for them, and obviously no one wants teams just to slide and slide and slide. We want things to be competitive, want games to be competitive, and well, this is absolutely given us that competitive game, and credit to York for going out and getting that winner, because it could have been so easy when you get brought back to you were 3-1 up, you get brought back to 3-all. It can be so easy for heads to drop and then concede a fourth goal and lose the game. But they didn't. They went out and they searched that winner, got their winner, and they come away with all 3 points.
Very good. I wanted to sneeze a minute ago and it didn't happen. And I'm like, can you carry on talking? And the sneeze hasn't come. So it's going to come at some point. So that's a cute little thing for you to look out for at some point. We'll see if it happens. It's interesting because Gareth mentions the bottom of the table. Gareth's chosen 2 matches from the Division 1 North. So we're actually going to keep you in suspense with the table. And we're going to go through a couple of other matches and leagues before coming back to the Division 1 North and then showing you the league at the end. So, I mean, of course, it's not the biggest surprise, is it? You can always Google it whilst the show's on. If it's really, really playing with your anxiety, feel free to do that. But it will be coming, so don't worry. And of course, if you watch this on catch up, you can just skip forward 10 minutes and see where we are. But we are going to move on to the Division 1 Midlands. As ever, as you know, we like to drop from the north down to the south. And so with the Midlands here, you can see we've got Northampton Town against the misfiring Solihull Moors at the moment. And this feels like a bit of a mauling, John. What can you tell us about this one?
So almost if Northampton have kind of gone under the radar a little bit because obviously Northampton 7, Solihull Moors 1. We've heard a lot on this show over the last few weeks about how good, say, Leafield are doing, winning 9 games and just losing the one derby in the FA Cup. We've heard about Peterborough producing some magic, going weeks and weeks unbeaten in both League and Cup, and Loughborough Lightning being many people's favourites to get promoted this season, a plus 30 goal average in just 8 games. However, just let this sink in. If Northampton win their game in hand, it's them who go top of this league. And it's almost like that they've been there, they've constantly been there because their run of form is just as equal as the rest. But because they've done it quietly, you don't realise actually how good they have been. And it's a great debate to have. That top 4 that I've just mentioned, how far off are they compared to the bottom 4 teams in Tier 3 at the moment? I had this conversation throughout the week, and it's something I'd like to touch on maybe Christmas time, maybe if ever we have like a bit of a blank week, because I think that is such a great topic, how strong these 4 teams are. And Northampton, if they win their game in hand, they'll actually go top of the tree. Yes, you could argue it's only against Solihull Moors, but up until this game, the maximum goals that Solihull Moors have conceded in just one game was 3, and that was only twice. So Solihull Moors have only been losing 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. So again, a massive credit to Northampton there for scoring that amount of goals. Speaking about goals, I don't know if you've seen Northampton's Twitter, but their goal gifts are really creative, really fun. So I suggest if you do get a few seconds, just have a quick look on their Twitter page, because they've got something special there with the use of a green screen. So quite enjoyable to look at. Players wise, so you got Zoe Booth, who came back footed, and Alex Mills, who came back into starting 11. They all started as subs last week when Northampton lost in the FA Cup, and it was a shock defeat for them when they lost to Shrewsbury 3-2. But nothing shocking in this game whatsoever. Not too much information on the goals themselves, but Northampton obviously found themselves 2-1 up at half time, and then 3 goals came in the second half from second half subs, plus a hat-trick from Faye Noble as well. Last week we highlighted the importance of the top of league clash, Leafield versus Peterborough. Well, this week coming, it's Northampton versus Peterborough, which is equally as important as the Leafield game. So massive well done to Northampton. And Moors have got to go to Loughborough Lightning next week. So very tough place Moors are at the moment. Still slightly out of the relegation zone, I think, just on goal average, I think. But yeah, some big games coming up and some top of the table clashes as well.
Absolutely. And again, we talk about a few things in here. We all know the things that tickle me and that I really enjoy. And again, what a place this is to go and play your football at Fairley Fields. Well, it sounds lovely. It sounds like Pontypandy or something like lovely. That's the sort of place where everyone go and have a nice time. So there we go. But yeah, what an absolute result that is. if you are Northampton Town. And again, the second thing, Solihull Moors must be absolutely gutted to have taken the lead in that game. And they're thinking, oh, here we go. Could be a great result. And then by the end of the game, like I say, they've been sent for 7, which would not be ideal. Now, the last time we looked at the Division 1 Midlands was probably a couple of games ago. But very interesting to see that not a lot has changed at all, with the exception of up the top. And John mentions Leafield and Peterborough. That was a huge game. Leafield, I think, won 2-1 against Peterborough there, and it's just thrown them up to the top of the table. But like you said, Northampton there with the goal difference of 26, if they win their game in hand, would go top. But added bit of fun there, so could Loughborough Lightning. So that is really big up there at the top. Right, Division 1 Southwest. I'm going to try my best, but that sneeze is fighting back again. So we'll see how we get on again. But Division 1 Southwest. This is commitment. And we've got AFC Bournemouth against Swindon Town. And I was doing the usual, just sort of looking through the WNL. It's been a long time since we came to the Southwest. It was at 3 games played the last time we looked at it. This was huge, by the way. Absolutely huge. Because if you get to the top of the table over here in the Division 1 Southwest, it's a really big league. We are talking about like some Moneyfields, talking about Bournemouth, talking about Swindon Town. Now, Swindon Town are top of the table, even with this defeat. But Bournemouth were 4 points behind with 2 games in hand. Now, the bit that's really amazing about this is that Swindon Town have got a goal difference of about 25. I think they've conceded 12 goals so far this season. That's including these 4. So in the games that have been played so far, they've conceded 8 goals. And now they've gone in 1 game and conceded a third of their entire season's goals in this 1 game. But Bournemouth are they're knocking this one out of the park. You don't need me to tell you too much about the goals. You can see Katie James scored a couple there, Molly Clark with 1 as well, and then Erin Bloomfield. But what's really big about this is Bournemouth's defence. They've conceded just 2 goals this season. Just 2 so far. There's only one other team in the top 4 divisions that has only conceded 2 goals. Do we know who that is? WSL, Championship, Northern and Southern Premier, and of course all the Division 1s. It's Manchester United. They're the only other team to have conceded 2 goals in the league. I was looking through. I didn't even do this. I haven't mentioned this just because I wanted to get Manchester United into the lower league show. Like, genuinely, I was going through all of them, and they're the only other team. I was looking to see if anyone had conceded 1 or less. AFC Bournemouth have got the best defensive record in the top 4 tiers of women's football. I didn't have time to go to the 5th tier, but I'd be gobsmacked if there's anybody in the tier 5 or even tier 6, really, who've only conceded 2 or less. If they have, write in and let us know. That'd be lovely to find out. But genuinely, that's amazing. So Bournemouth are on an absolute mad one here. So much so that I'm actually going to tip Bournemouth at this point to go on and win the league. Because I think this is unbelievable. You know, it's gone right under the radar. People have been talking about Swindon. People have been talking about Moneyfields. But Bournemouth, 100%, they are the team to be looking out for. And that shows itself when you take a look over here at the league. It's mad. Like I say, look at this. Swindon Town, top of the table, and still just there. It's up, obviously, from the last time we looked at it. It's level from where they were in the last game. Bournemouth obviously dropped down. They were top the last time we looked at the Division 1 Southwest, which, like I say, was only after 3 games played. Here we're looking at sort of 9 or 10 being the average. So this is 7 games later. And Swindon have taken the top, but Bournemouth looking really, really strong there. Moneyfields hanging about. They're around about the top 2, waiting for any mistakes if they should occur. As you can see, there's been a few drops going on down there. The big one, Southampton women. Depressing for them. They've only got 1 point from a draw, and that was taken away from them for fielding an ineligible player. So they literally just paid the piper with that point, and they're still sat there on 0. Bournemouth Sports having dropped in as well. But for me, you're looking at anyone from 3 in terms of Swindon, Bournemouth, and Moneyfields, really. You could probably argue Bristol Rovers aren't out of it, but they're definitely on the cusp. So, yeah, But I think that's amazing when you start looking, and this is what I love about stats. It's brilliant when you get the chance to actually take a few minutes just to look into it, because Bournemouth were just flown under the radar. Nobody in the world would have sat there and thought, if you were to say which two teams in the top 4 tiers of women's football have only conceded 2 goals, a lot of people would have come up with Manchester United. I'd be gobsmacked if anybody else had said Bournemouth. So there you go. Could be a quiz question, but it's only going to be valid for at least the next 4 days. So, get it in quick. Otherwise, it could be wrong. You watch them go and concede 5 next and just completely mug me off. Please don't do that, Bournemouth. But there we go. So that's Division 1 Southwest. Really impressed with that. And like I say, I was going to go with the Southern Premier because there was bits happening at the top there. I'll talk to you about that when we do our match to look forward to, because I saw this and I'm like, that is just ridiculous. Their goal difference of 39, nailing it, Bournemouth. So well done, you. Right, we're going back to the north because Mr. Gareth, the mighty one, has his second one. So we're going to look at the Division 1 North table after this. But he's chosen Donny Bells and Middlesbrough. And that looks like a bit of a shocker. Tell us more.
Yeah, well, coming into this game, Middlesbrough had not lost at all season. Coming off the back of an FA Cup win last week. Donny Bells, we kind of touched on them as well. Not doing necessarily as well as they would have expected to be doing this season. Again, sort of in and around that relegation battle with Fylde, with York, etc. Kind of, and Doncaster really kind of down there. And yeah, I don't think anyone before the weekend would have said that Doncaster would come out 3-0 winners, but they have. And I think it shows, isn't it, that it's so difficult to remain unbeaten all season. Does this derail Middlesbrough's season? Absolutely not at all. They're still top of the league. They've got games in hand on the teams below them. They're still in control of their own destiny. Does it make it a little bit more fruity for them? Yeah, I think so. They're not even necessarily looking over their shoulders now, but they are aware that there is a chasing pack just behind them, which we'll get on to when we look at the league table. Middlesbrough now start to, Doncaster now start to just ease off a little bit. They've moved themselves kind of out of that relegation zone now with this 3-0 win. And, what a win for those players. Like, to come away from that, he's got 3 goals in the last 30 minutes of the game. To come away and know that you've got these 3 points, arguably some of the toughest 3 points that you're going to come up against all season. It's a big result for them, and it's a big result for them players. And these are the kind of games that can turn seasons around. If Doncaster can now go and put a couple of wins together, it drags them away from that relegation zone, and they can start to not necessarily relax, but stop kind of looking over their shoulder at the people behind them, or looking ahead and seeing those teams edge further away. They can be that side edging further away. That's bad news for your Yorks, your Fyldes, even teams like Stockport potentially that could get dragged down in and around it. Norton, Stockton Ancients in that mid-table area as well. But yeah, just a hugely impressive result. I think it's one that sort of made me do a double take when I looked at the table, and it has huge implications at the top and the bottom, and that's why I picked it. Massively important, both games, hugely important games, towards the bottom end of the table, which, I think is easy to look at league winners and titles and who's top and who's doing well. But if you go and get these 2 massive results like York and Doncaster have done this weekend, it definitely can put cats amongst pigeons, so to speak. I imagine both teams are pretty frustrated that the other team have managed to pull out a relatively shock result. But such is football, and yeah, they'll be looking to carry on and push on from this.
I think you're right, absolutely. Now, I said to the boys before we went live, I said this is probably going to be a nightmare. This is probably going to be an error-strewn day because I've not been at my tip top, and we'd actually done really well up until this slide. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, there's no way Doncaster Bells played at the University of York Sports Centre and got 134 attendance. And of course, I'm right, they didn't. So I apologise for that. They played at Denby Main FC, and there was 371 worthy souls watching that particular match. So a little bit of a change for you there. Also, little fun fact for you, just slide back very quickly here, because I noticed this when I came to do this slide, Gareth. Obviously, Stockport were the home team. And interestingly enough, there was 134 who watched that last game as well. It was exactly the same number. So that was a little bit spooky. So there we go. Little fun facts of things that make me giggle. But there we go. Division 1 North. Here it is. What a moment we've got. Middlesbrough staying at the top with 20 points. Cheadletown, Leeds United. Go on. I'm sorry. I thought somebody said something.
But yeah, it's definitely an interesting table to look at, and looking at that relegation zone, anybody down from 6th, smack bang in the middle of the table, that entire bottom half is right in that. And you look at that title challenge, and any of those teams, even as down far as Huddersfield, really, every single team in that league can ambitiously but realistically are in either a title battle or a relegation scrap. And I think at the halfway point of the season, to say that every single team is fighting for something, whether to go up or avoid going down, is uncommon. So yeah, it would definitely be interesting to see how this shapes up as we kind of move through towards Christmas.
Absolutely, that nearly at the halfway mark, and so very interesting to see how that's going to be, and of course how the back end of this season goes as well. Right then, it's been brilliant. We've just spent 4 games in Tier 4, but we're dropping down into Tier 5, and here you can see the rather wonderful John Foster has got a brilliant match here. Talk to us a little bit about why you chose this one, John.
Yeah, finished 4-2 to Lighttown, and I've dropped out Lighttown once or twice on this show over the season so far, but not really spoken in huge detail. A lot of people will be wondering, where is Lighttown? I've never heard of it. It's a small club. Where is it? Well, it's basically just in between Stourbridge and Dudley. So I'm sure you've heard Stourbridge and Dudley. So it's just smack in the middle of those. And it is just a little small club. But it's a small club that's been developing steadily over recent seasons. And it's hard to miss Lighttown. You're okay there, Barry. I don't know if you're laughing or sneezing. One or the other. Yeah, it's very hard to miss Live from obviously where I live. So you do hear a lot about Live, but not necessarily winning loads of things, but just gradually rising through the ranks. And they've got a very good pathway as well. The development squad are increasing and winning matches almost week in, week out as well. And I think when I think about Live, I always think to myself, both of the Live teams, the pathway and the first team, I always think to myself, it's almost like always the bridesmaid, never the bride. They're always in a title race, but it's never their name that's up in lights at the end of the season. If you remember last season, it was Worcester who won Tier 5 just by the 1 point. And the pathway team, the development team, missed out on promotion just by one fixture, just by one game. So they've always been there or thereabouts, but they've never been the main team. Potentially this season, they will be the main team, and we'll probably touch on that throughout the season. Burton began the season really well. They won the 2 out of 3 games, and the game that they lost was against the league leader Shifnal. So they've obviously started off with a bit of confidence, but gradually declined throughout the season, whereas Lighttown are flying and still a lot of people's favourites. If you look on FA full time for these goals, you won't really find out too much information. I don't know where you got your information from, but I had to ask a few people because they weren't on Twitter. Yeah, was it actually on the Twitter, or did you have to go to an article?
No, I don't think it was on Lighttown. So I think from full time I got the scorers.
Yeah.
And then I had to use, I think it was Burton's Twitter. And they didn't tell me who scored the first one, but they did tell me who scored the other 3. So then I used my common sense hat and went, well, therefore Brittany Lope must have scored the goal that was scored in the first minute. So well done, Burton Albion's media team. You're absolute legends.
Yeah, they put the goals up, and they also marked a bit of a match day article on there as well that did show all the times and the goal scorers. So massive credit to them. But yeah, as you can see, 2-2 at half time. Captain Caitlin Walton scored in the 49th minute and then 85th minute by Lucy Davies. And I think at that point, you'd have a Shifnal fans, you'd have your Kidderminster Harrier fans with their heads in their hands, because at one point it looked like Lightown was about to drop points. But I still think that all the title challengers will believe that fate is in their own hands there, and they've all still got to play each other as well. Shifnal, Kiddie Harriers, Camden Court still in that race as well. But I do think Lightown are the firm favourites for this league still. But yeah, there's still a few teams in this title race just yet.
100%. And it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we all know what full time's like. Some of them get it put in there in time. Some of them don't quite get there before the Tuesday. I'm not entirely sure what the league rules are for people to get them on, but that's not what we're trying to do. But it is really helpful if you do get information out there, because we're able to put it up. So it's really good if we see these social medias sites getting that info out and having somebody who can tweet them. So again, if you're someone who goes to your local football and they don't have someone to do that, see if you can get involved. Maybe this could be you, the person that lets the world know. It's just the minimum that the girls deserve, if we're being brutally honest. So again, good job, Burton. Let's take a look at the league. It's been a couple of games since we last saw the West Midlands Regional. And as you can see, again, very similar to the last leagues, insofar as not a huge number of changes. Kidderminster Harriers and Lightown have gone up since the last time we looked at them. Camden Court have dropped down. Shifnal still top of the pops. And really interesting down at the bottom there, Solihull Sporting have, with just 3 games played, by the way, pulled themselves up a position by winning a game. And yeah, they're not a million miles off being able to get out of the relegation zone. You talk about tight leagues. Again, exactly the same thing here, just 3 points between 7th and 11th. That is quite a thing. Right, it's time to go to a new league, everybody. We've had to sort out yet another colour scheme, which wasn't the easiest thing in the world to do, but I've had a go. So here we go. We've got a brand new league coming up, and it's one that I know reasonably well. It's the Eastern Region WFL, Women's Football League. And my goodness, what a league this is turning out to be. Now, yes, it's the league that Stevenage are in. But again, 13 weeks and the first time that I mentioned it. So I won't have any people coming in at me going, oh, you're just choosing people you know about, because that's blatantly not true. I've shuffled through lots of stuff trying to find other clubs. But actually, this one was really quite a big one for numerous reasons. Luton Town second in the league, Royston Town top of the league. Stevenage have only lost 2 games this season, and it's to these 2 teams, 1-0 and 3-2. They are fighting for the title at the moment, but Royston, like I say, they've had a superb season, unbeaten up until this game. It was massive, huge between the two. Barton Rovers FC, no idea how many people are there. They've usually got somewhere between 100 and 200 when it's a Luton game. But for a game like this, you'd hope it was a little bit more, because there was a lot riding on this. Just showing you this on its own doesn't really give you the picture. So let's show you our rather funky league table, because the league table gives you the information that you need to see. Royston Town, like I say, were unbeaten up until this game. 24 points on the board. Luton, before this game, had 15 points. They were 9 points behind, but had 2 games in hand. So a win for them was vital. They knew that if they could get that win, they'd be 6 points behind Royston, and all of a sudden those games in hand pull Royston level. But of course, what's really interesting about that as well is that St Albans have had a good win. Stevenage had a good win against Enfield. So as a result, they're now there to try and take a little bit of advantage of any mistakes that are made. But again, it's interesting because this is what helps you decide who's going up to the WNL South East. And like I say, for this, it's been massive. Luton have had a really good season as well. They've only lost 1 of their games so far this season. So between the 2 of them, it really does look like one of those 2 teams are going to go through. Now, they are the teams that have invested quite a bit of money into their squads, and they're doing their best to get themselves out of the league. people like St Albans, Stevenage, Bowsen, Pitsea, Haringey Borough, not so much investment, but are working incredibly hard. So I just thought it'd be nice to introduce another new league into the show, because it's nice to see some different bits and bobs that are going on. We've been around London, we've been around the southwest, but yes, I brought it closer to home for this one, because that to me is just a huge result. It's one of those ones that can really change it. It makes you wonder now, how can Royston react to this? Are Royston going to be able to carry on and bounce back? Will it cause a little bit of doubt into their mind and just cause a little bit of a slip, a la Manchester City in the Premier League at the moment? Or are they going to have that mental fortitude to carry on and keep Luton behind? As you can see, the goal difference is pretty significant. Royston have that. So even if Luton win their 2 games in hand, Royston would currently stay top unless Luton absolutely muller the 2 teams that they are playing against. So really big. Stevenage, you've got to play both of them once again as well. So I'm sure that we'll have a little say in what's going on there. And you just never know. That's 6 points that could be collected, and that could well help to drag St Albans and Stevenage in as well. So some really big ones there down the bottom. Not looking too great at the moment for Cambridge City. They are struggling a little bit. But despite that, there are 3 other teams in Needham Market. Dewsondale and Helliston, who only just came up from Division 1, and Wroxham. And they are currently, Wroxham were doing really well at the beginning of the season, but they've just dropped off a little bit. They do have some games in hand, though. So it'll be very interesting to see how they go on. But yes, that game, absolutely massive. And that goal from Amber Leighton has really, to quote Gareth, put the cat amongst the pigeons in that league. And it has given us certainly, should I say, a little bit of hope that maybe this year is the year when we actually have a title race rather than just watching the person in the distance running off. And that would be nice. It would be nice if there was a bit more excitement when you're checking your Twitter feed at the end of a football match. So there we go. That is what is happening across the country. But what about this weekend? Where should people be casting their eyes? Let's go to the mighty Gareth in the north. Whereabouts should people be averting their gaze towards?
So I'm going to continue with my theme of the week, really, in terms of relegation battles, and that is Salford City FC hosting FC United of Manchester, who are the side's 10th and 11th in the Northwest Regional Premier Division. So, 1 point separates the 2 sides. So Salford will be hoping to make that 4 by the end of the weekend. And FC will be hoping to make that, then leapfrogging Salford and going 2 points clear of them. So a lot riding on that game. And yeah, it's definitely somewhere where my attention is going to be.
There we go. Mr. Foster, all those people in the Midlands, where should they be setting up tents outside in order to make sure they don't miss the hot ticket in town?
They all need to be travelling further up north to Lincoln. So Lincoln City versus Worcester, bottom of the table clash as well. 12th versus 11th. It's just a big game there at the bottom, isn't it? So I don't think it'll end any stories. I don't think there'll be any conclusions. But I do think that if Worcester win, that definitely puts them in a driving seat, something like 6 or 7 points away from Lincoln. So yeah, massive game, and I look forward to seeing the outcome of that one.
Glad you chose Worcester, actually, because I had them written down for when we got to the league table. Not to do anything with Worcester specifically, but Barnsley Women beat them this weekend 5-2. And that put them into a positive goal difference for the first time in a long time in their league. So there we go. Thank you. I didn't even plan that, look, and that's meant I can scribble something out of me off me list. Well done. Very good. Just my Ipswich v Oxford. Yes, that must be my match. And it is. I went to the Southern Premier, which, like I said, was going to be the place that I was going to go to for the matches, purely because there's a few things happening when you get up towards the top. Now, Hashtag are doing pretty well, but Oxford United lost to Hashtag, and that was massive for them because Hashtag are currently top of the table, 26 points, Oxford 22 points. It's a problem for them because they had the same amount of games. So by Hashtag winning that was the old proverbial 6-pointer, because Hashtag are now clear of Oxford by 4 points. They're also clear of Ipswich by 3, but Ipswich have got 2 games in hand. And as I just said, Ipswich v Oxford is the game that we are looking at. For me, that's the big one down here. It's massive. If Ipswich can win that, they potentially close that gap to Hashtag. But equally, if Oxford manage to win that, Ipswich lose potentially a bit of ground in that title race as well, and it would just pull Oxford right back into it. So I think for me, that's the one that really caught my eye. That's going to be quite a big game, and I wouldn't be surprised if we end up looking at the Southern Premier this time next week. But maybe not this time next week, because number one, it's a Tuesday, and number two, by the time you've watched this, it'll be like 7:30, and that's no good because 7 o'clock is when we start, so it wouldn't quite be the right time, would it? But you get my meaning. Listen, I've had a really nice day, even though I feel absolutely terrible. I'm going to go and just sort of die on my bed for a bit and hope that I wake up in the morning feeling a little bit better and a little less stuffy. I've managed to get through it without sneezing, but it is really there. It's been a bit of a moment, so I hope my professionalism has been good enough this evening. John, thank you very much for joining us as ever. Gaza, a pleasure to have you along as well.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back next week. And I suppose all that's left to say is have a wonderful week. We will see you next time.